Do you guys know the meme, Spain, but without the S? That's about where we are right now, as the Vancouver Canucks lose to the Vegas Golden Knights 7-4, putting them 3 games below 500, just 15 games into the season. Things got to change, folks. Look, being 5-8-2 to start the season is not good. We're going to break this game down, and then after that, we're going to go over my thoughts, your thoughts, all of the above. You guys know the drill at this point. Something's got to give. Let's break it down. All right. We have Francesco Aquilini in the building. This is the first thing I'm going to mention. They mentioned it before the game in sort of the Hockey Night in Canada 32 Thoughts panel. They brought up that a rare occasion that Francesco Aquilini was in the building on the road watching this game. Does that mean that maybe a bit of pressure on Jim Benning, maybe a bit of pressure on Travis Green? We don't know, but a weird sign. They say it was pre-planned, but something to keep in mind. We have Madison Bowie in the lineup for the first time. We have Brad Hunt in the lineup. We have Alex Chason back in the lineup as well. And for Vegas, Ben Hutton in the lineup for the first time, getting some games against his former team. In the first period, Vegas comes in on a 2-on-1 real early. It's Mike Amadio, wide open net on the return feed, and he puts it straight through the crease. This should have been 1-0 Vegas, and this game would have spiraled out of control. If Mike Amadio puts this goal in minutes into the game, this game probably ends up being like 8-2 or something like that. But they miss an easy goal. JT Miller comes the other way and scores the quick shot 5-hole. So the Canucks are up 1-0 early. And then we have some extracurriculars between Stone and Garland. Stone gets the only penalty. He cross-checked Garland sort of in the face. So the Canucks go to the power play, and right as the penalty ends, we have Brad Hunt feeding Connor Garland on the far wall, fires it. Tanner Pearson tilts the skate, angles it in. It's 2-0 Vancouver, 6 minutes in. We're starting to think, okay, maybe the Canucks are going to pull this one out. Maybe the Canucks are going to go into Vegas, a team that is better than them, to be frank, a team that has kind of had their number. And maybe they'll go in and steal 2 points and get closer to 500 and maybe start to right the ship a little bit. But then we have Jason Dickinson taking a penalty about halfway through the first, takes a high sticking penalty. Canucks penalty kill, worst in the NHL. This is their first test of the night. We have a mad scramble in front for Vegas. Demko making some huge stops, and the penalty kill survives this one. But with a minute to go, McNabb runs over Podkolzin. Oliver Ekman-Larsson goes to challenge him. Not much happens. McNabb drops one glove, throws a punch. Lots of people on Twitter saying that McNabb should get the extra one here. But the NHL officiating has been really solid on calling the guy who goes in and starts something. What the refs would have seen here is a McNabb hit that was clean, which in my opinion, it was maybe a bit of an elbow, but I don't think that should have been a penalty. And then Oliver Ekman-Larsson chasing him down. And then McNabb throwing a punch. So they're going to see, okay, we're going to give Ekman-Larsson the extra one because he's the instigator here. That's what they call. So the Canucks go to the penalty kill, and then Justin Bailey takes a hooking penalty right after. It's 5-on-3. Vegas scores with 13 seconds left in the period. It's Evgeny Dadonov from Stevenson and Theodore. You can see it's kind of cut off there on the side. So it's 2-1 after 1. The Canucks were the better team in the first period. A rough finish to the period, but they're outshooting the Golden Knights 10-9. But they were the better team in the first period. We go to the second period, and then about 5.5 minutes in, it's a messy shift for the Canucks. They can't get the puck out of the zone. It's Riley Smith coming off of the bench. They're 3-on-1, and he fires it past Demko. It's 2-2, and things are looking a little bit scary. A few minutes later, 10.5 to go, or just about 9 minutes to go. It ends up being Chason and Howden going to the box. It's 4-on-4, and immediately after this, Bo Horvat fails to clear the zone. Tyler Myers makes a bad pinch. It ends up being Braden McNabb with a clear lane to the net, walking in and scoring, and it's 3-2 for Vegas. So the Canucks are now down. They're behind the 8 ball. They've allowed 3 straight goals, and they need to answer. And they do. Canucks get a power play with 7.5 minutes to go. It's Chandler Stevenson going to the box. It's a slash call on Elias Pettersson. This might be the worst penalty call I've ever seen. Chandler Stevenson goes up to Elias Pettersson. He lifts his stick and steals the puck. And the refs call it a slash. This was the first big gaffe of the officials tonight. And it was, look, I'm not trying to be biased because, look, this was a penalty that shouldn't have happened and Vegas got wronged here. on this call. So the Canucks get a power play. It's kind of scrambly. They don't convert. That's 7 straight power plays for the Canucks without a conversion. Later on, we have Höglander on a partial breakaway. Quick shot stopped by Robin Lehner. The puck falls between his legs. It's just sitting there. He reaches in. He slams the brakes. He tucks it in. It's 3-3. So that's goals in 3 of the last 5 games for Höglander. 2 straight. And then he immediately takes a penalty right after. So we're tied at 3. Late in the second period, Höglander takes a tripping penalty. And then Vegas takes a too many men penalty. So that's technically a successful penalty kill. We'll take it. But then Oliver Ekman-Larsson takes another penalty. This penalty is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The Canucks are on a power play, and he goes to center ice, and he kind of stops, and his skates rub against the opponent, against Riley Smith's skate, who's skating by him. Their skates touch. Smith goes down. They call it basically a pick. They call it interference. OEL goes to the box. The second big, terrible penalty call in this game, but the Canucks did kill this one off in the third period, but it did take them off the power play. So shots in the second period, 15-13 for Vancouver. We go to the third period. The Canucks are super scrambly. It results in a prolonged shift in the Canucks zone. They never get possession of the puck. They never clear the puck, and it results in Leschyshyn being wide open in the slot. He taps in a pass from Dadonov to make it 4-3. It's his first NHL goal, and it's 4-3 for Vegas, but the Canucks respond just less than a minute later. Good pressure in the offensive zone. A point shot from Myers results in a rebound going right to Höglander. He kicks it to his stick, fires home his second of the night. A really nice goal from Nils Höglander, and we're tied at 4. So now we're thinking, all right, the Canucks have given up some bad goals. They've scored some goals on their own. It's 4-4. They're still in it. They can steal a couple of points. Well, the officiating gets worse here, folks. Thatcher Demko then gets called for a delay of game penalty. He leans to his left. He puts his skate against the net, and I'll bring the mic with me. He puts his skate against the post, his shoulder against the post. He leans against it, just like you see goalies do hundreds of times every single game, and the net slides off. So they call a penalty on that. Thatcher Demko has never taken a penalty. I think the thing I saw is he's never taken a regular season penalty. He has no reputation for intentionally knocking the net off of the moorings. But they call him for it. They call him for this delay of game. That makes no sense. I saw a tweet from Kevin Woodley, who is sort of the goalie guru in the Vancouver area. And he said, quote, "Only way that net comes off with what a move that every goalie makes a dozen times every period is if that peg wasn't in properly in the first place, possibly from earlier contact." It wasn't like he went and pushed it. He leaned against the post, like you see, like he said, a goalie do a dozen times a period, and they call him for it, and Jonathan Marchessault scores down the right wing, skates in, quick shot, beats Demko, who's screened, and it's 5-4. Now, the officiating was bad here. The Canucks penalty kill needs to be better, and we've said this so many times. But the Canucks penalty kill is bad again, and it's a reason they lost. So, later on, Canucks go to the power play. Brock Besser gets interfered with by Braden McNabb with about 10 minutes to go. I think this was also a pretty bad call. Besser sort of missed the puck, and then McNabb hit him. It could have been maybe a high stick. It could have maybe been an elbow, but it was kind of like I don't know. I don't think it was really like an obvious penalty, maybe a makeup call in some way. Thatcher Demko is forced to make an outstanding short-handed save, stacking the pads around the world, basically, kicking the legs up. Beautiful save by Demko off of a face-off in the defensive zone here on this power play. But it's still, at this point, it's still a one-goal game. Canucks are still in it, and the Canucks trying to put on some pressure here after this power play comes to an end, but JT Miller fumbles it. A pass comes to him, he fumbles it, he falls down, it's a 2-on-1 the other way. Dadonov to Stone, they enter the zone, Stone goes back to Dadonov, he scores an easy goal, and it's 6-4. It's 6-4, just like that, with 6 minutes to play, and then just a minute and a half later, Myers knocks it away from Demko. Demko going out to play the puck instead of just covering it, trying to clear it out. Tyler Myers tries to clear it, clears it right onto the stick of Jonathan Marchessault, who makes it 7-4. There was a fight with about a minute left, kind of a dumb fight with a minute left in a 3-goal game, but Hutton's trying to prove himself to stay in the lineup, whatever. So the Canucks lose 7-4. This just 2 days after the Canucks lose 7-1 to the Colorado Avalanche. So the Canucks go up against probably their two toughest opponents that they're going to face in a while here, right? Colorado Avalanche, Vegas Golden Knights, two teams that are real contenders in the NHL right now, and they allow 7 goals to each of them. That's not acceptable. It's not good enough. It's just bad in general from the Vancouver Canucks. So let's go in pluses, minuses. Guess which one we have more of tonight? Pluses, Canucks score first. The third time in 15 games the Canucks get the first goal of the game with that Miller goal 3 minutes in. However, they shouldn't have. I think it was it Amadio early on? Mike Amadio, he should have scored 3 minutes into this game. And again, it would have been, more of the same. But they went out and answered, and they scored their third first goal of the game in 15 games. My other plus is that they scored 4 goals tonight. The offense wasn't really the problem. The offense was ticking, but in the defensive zone, the team was bad. Penalty killing wise, just all around, the team left the goalie out to dry. I don't think Thatcher Demko had a great game. However, Thatcher Demko has been so good early on in this season that it's tough to put any blame on him, right? Sure, maybe you want him to make a couple more saves, but you also want the team to not give so many opportunities up, so many high danger opportunities up to this Vegas team, because this Vegas team can capitalize on those, and this Vegas team can sink you with them. And that's exactly what they did tonight. Minuses, there's a lot. And I do want to pull up natural stat trick, which I do fairly often, because I do just want to see, what the expected goal share was. Like, were the Canucks the better team? At 5-on-5, the Golden Knights had 46% share of expected goals. When you bring special teams into it, Vegas had 53% of expected goals. So Vegas was analytically in all 3 periods. Oh, the second one was slightly Vancouver favored, but in the first and third especially, Vegas had the edge analytically, and they had the edge on the scoreboard. Let's go into the minuses. First one is sloppy defense. Look, you don't allow 7 goals in a game without your defense having an off night. The problem is that this Canucks defense has been like this all season. It was sloppy defensively. There were so many situations where they didn't get the puck out of the zone when they should have, just allowing Vegas to keep possession in the offensive zone, allowing these high danger chances. Vegas had 20 high danger scoring chances tonight. 20. The Canucks had 16. The Canucks were also good offensively, but they allowed 20 high danger chances against. That's a ton. Next minus, they allowed 2 power play goals. Again, the one late in the first period, which you can see here for Dadonov, the Marchessault goal, the game winner in the third period that made it 5-4, both on the power play. I think Vegas had 7 power plays tonight, which is a lot, but it's another game that the Vancouver Canucks allowed to. Is this right? I think the NHL site's broken. It says 2 for 3. I think it was 2 for 7. The Golden Knights scoring multiple power play goals. Again, the Canucks allowing multiple power play goals like they've done way too many times this season. The league worst penalty kill continues to be bad, and it's costing them games. It didn't cost them this one, but it has cost them multiple games so far this season. Vegas came into this game with the 30th ranked power play in the league so far this season. Vegas's power play was at 10.7%, but you wouldn't know it from this game. Their power play looked pretty good, and they convert twice on it, and it's just bad from the Canucks penalty killing standpoint. The third minus is that the Canucks are falling out of the race here. If we take a look at the standings, which I don't have a graphic for right now, but the Canucks are second to last in the division, still ahead of Seattle, who's been terrible. But the Canucks have 12 points in 15 games. They're at 400 points percentage. They are 6 points behind LA. They are 6 points behind Vegas, and 6 points behind Calgary. All of those teams, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the division. 6 points to make up is a lot. We see a lot in the NHL, teams that are more than something like 4 points outside of the playoff race by the end of November typically miss the playoffs. And it's something like 90% of the time. A team that's more than 4 points out by the end of November doesn't make the playoffs. There's only about 2.5 weeks left in November, and the Canucks are more than 4 points out of a playoff race. It's not looking good so far. Something needs to change, and something needs to change fast if this team wants to salvage the season. I do want to give one of my minuses to officiating. I don't like complaining about officiating because Typically, people that complain about officiating are teams that lost, if that makes sense, right? It's usually fans who are like, the officiating sucks and that's why we lost. It's not why the Canucks lost. I'll preface it with that. The Canucks did not lose because of officiating tonight, but officiating was terrible. It was bad both ways, right? There was the OEL penalty. There was the Demko penalty. I'm still so confused by. It makes no sense for them to call that. I think the McNabb penalty was pretty weak. I think officiating was just bad in this game, and it's been bad all season. But it's not the reason the Canucks are losing games. I thought Pettersson and Besser had pretty off nights. I think Pettersson continues to not really make an impact on the ice. I think Brock Besser wasn't that impactful as well. Meanwhile, JT Miller's out there. He gets another goal. But other than that, I think that entire sort of lotto line group, even though they weren't playing together, continues to be struggling. Höglander scored twice, so that's nice. And my biggest minus, and the thing I want to talk about, is that this Vancouver Canucks team is better on paper than they're performing. I'm not a fan of Jim Benning, and I've made that clear. However, I think that this roster that has been assembled, albeit 8 years into his tenure, is the best roster the Canucks have had in quite a while, and I think it's a playoff caliber roster. Travis Green thought it was a playoff caliber roster. Jim Benning said it was a playoff caliber roster. Francesco Aquilini said it's a playoff caliber roster. They all said that the goal for this season was to make the playoffs. Well, something's wrong here because this isn't a playoff team right now. The Canucks are 5-8-2. They have 12 points in 15 games. If you think about what the Canucks need to do, they need to get about 94 points probably to make the playoffs. They only have 67 games left to get another 82 points. So the Canucks have to go on a tear for basically the rest of the season. So what has the issue been? Is it that this roster's not as good as we thought? In which case that would be on the general manager for putting this roster together. However, I think most fans thought that this roster was decent, at least. They thought it was a playoff roster, or at least a team that could compete for the playoffs. So in that case, that kind of absolves Jim Benning for right now. I still don't think Jim Benning has done a good job over the past 8 seasons. However, I think that the roster as it's currently constructed is better than they're performing. So is that on the players? Are the players just not living up to their potential? Are they just not performing? Are they anxious? Is it a coaching issue? Or are they just, they're just not executing? The third option is, well, if this team isn't executing, how much of that lies on the coaching staff? How much of that is on Travis Green, on Jason King, on the entire staff, like Brad Shaw, that entire staff? How much of this issue falls on the players not executing compared to the coaches not coaching well enough? And it's hard for me to decide, right? I can't tell whether or not a failure in execution as a group falls on the players or on the coaches. What I do know is that coaching changes tend to work. We saw it when Craig Berube took over in St. Louis and basically took that team from well outside the playoffs in January to winning the Stanley Cup less than 6 months later. We see it all the time where some sort of change, usually on the coaching side, some sort of coaching change at least does enough to salvage a season. But in that case, if you go out and you fire Travis Green, are you letting Jim Benning hire another coach? 8 years in, a team that's outside of the playoffs once again, are you trusting him with hiring the new guy? I think you're at the point where if you're going to fire Travis Green, I don't think you can let Jim Benning make the next call. So I think it's either both or none at this point. And I'd like to get some of your thoughts on that as we go here. There's over 100 of you in here. Agam saying it worked in Calgary as well. Absolutely. Calgary is right up there, just 2 points out of the top of the Pacific Division right now at 18 points in 14 games with a plus 12 goal differential. So let's discuss. Let's get your thoughts, your opinions. We'll scroll through your comments here. I know there's a lot of them. This is probably going to be one of our longer post-game shows. I am thankful that all of you are here. If you are here, hit the like button. I know we're not happy with the performance the Canucks put on, but hitting the like button does help me out. Or the dislike button also helps me out. Hit whichever one you want. So let's go over your thoughts, your opinions on Basically a performance that wasn't good enough. We have lots of people talking about Demko early on. Quattrop saying that Demko wasn't great tonight. Yeah, he allowed 7 goals. But one bad performance, I'm not going to put, too much stock into that on Demko's side, especially when the team in front of him defensively was not good. Maxim then saying, I feel bad for Demko. I agree. Sonny saying, I'm here for my post-game group therapy session. Yeah, look, I could be sitting in this room stewing about this bad performance and thinking like, man, what went wrong? What can this team do? And just be frustrated. But I have you guys to talk to, and we can get your opinions, your thoughts as we go. Niels Hoglander saying, fire Green and Benning, please. I can only do so much. Hoglander had a great game tonight. Niels Hoglander scoring 2 goals, his 3rd and 4th of the season. Like I said, 3 of the last 5 games he scored. All 4 of his goals coming in the last 5 games. He hasn't been the problem. He did have a bit of an iffy first period, I think, but he did come through pretty well. Nicole saying that was brutal to watch. Absolutely. Zach saying to trade Demko to spare him of this pain. Well, the Canucks need him. Tony saying Louis Eriksson was right. Travis Green is forcing players to play roles they don't like to play, making them play worse. And there's something to back this up. If you go out and you look at Nate Schmidt, for example, who's playing with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm going to pull up his stats really quick. Nate Schmidt. Let's pull up his stats. Last season for the Vancouver Canucks, he had 15 points. 15 points in 54 games, playing a shutdown role, which is not a role he's ever played in his career. He goes to Winnipeg. They allow him to play more of an offensive run and gun role. And Nate Schmidt has 10 points in just 14 games, and he's a +7. He was a -7 last season with the Canucks. He's a +7 in Winnipeg. And I think that's sort of an indictment against the coach here, right? We're seeing players leave the team and perform better than they did on the team. And I don't know if you can blame that anywhere else other than coaching staff. BRH saying brutal mistakes leading to goals. Absolutely. It was a lot of mistakes all around for the team tonight. Sonny saying a hot take. One of the Canucks top 6 will be traded before the new year for defense. Interesting take. I think if things really fall off the wagon, again, I think JT Miller's name will circulate around just because of his age. Not that I want him to be traded. If the Canucks are right on the edge of the playoff mix, then maybe we see something like that happen. However, I think if this team falls farther out of the playoff race, we're going to see a lot of calls for, all right, this year's a write-off. Let's try again next year and get a good draft pick. But I'm not sure. Let's see here. Quattrop saying, is it just me, or when the Canucks make a mistake, it spirals out of control? Execution errors keep piling up. When it rains, it pours for the Canucks. Yeah, I think what I've seen is that this team has a real focus on structure. The problem is, the second that any of that structure breaks apart, whenever any of it goes wrong, and we see any sort of scrambling, it almost always results in a goal for the opposing team. Whenever, a puck fails to get cleared and one guy ends up out of position, if we go way back early in the season, remember when Chason lost his man, I think it was against Edmonton, and it resulted in everyone losing their man and they scored an easy goal. I think that's sort of what we're still seeing, right? We're seeing a lot of guys who, whenever anything goes wrong, they live and die by this structure that everything gets so scrambly and things fall apart. I think that's definitely a fair take from Quattrop here. Martyr saying, will change happen? I feel like we need a new coach. I can't stand watching the games anymore. Yeah, so I can give my opinion on whether or not things should change. I can give my opinion on whether or not Travis Green should be let go, which in my opinion at this point, something has to change, and I think he's the easiest change to make. I love Travis Green as a person, but I think, it might be time here. However, the other question is, will change happen? I'm not so sure. Francesco seems to really live and die by Jim Benning, and it's kind of Jim Benning's call here. And usually a GM only gets 2 coaches. You get your first coach, you get to fire one, and then you get to bring in a new coach. And then at that point, if that coach doesn't work out, the GM usually goes too. So I don't know. I feel like Jim Benning's going to support Travis Green, which could lead to nothing happening. But I hope something changes. Whew. Agam saying, if Vasily Podkolzin was playing like Elias Pettersson is right now, Podkolzin would be in the AHL a month ago. Yeah, that's true. If other players were playing like Elias Pettersson is, then yeah, they probably wouldn't last very long on this team. However, it's still Elias Pettersson. He's still proven himself in the past. And you have to hope that he is the guy that will make something happen, right? Like just something. I'm seeing a tweet right now from Jeff Patterson saying Canucks fans deserve better. They were promised better. And that's something that I keep going back to, right? It's not that we were the ones to put these unrealistic expectations of a playoff team upon this team. We're 8 years into a GM's tenure, 5 years into a coach's tenure. Playoffs shouldn't be that hot of a take, right? That should be something that should be happening this far in. And then coach comes out and says it's a playoff team. Management, ownership all come out saying it's a playoff team, promising that this is a team that will be competing for a playoff spot come March, come April. And it's not the team we're seeing. So I totally agree with Jeff Patterson there. Agam saying that Green's got to be gone now, right? I don't know. Again, I think this team is better on paper than they're performing. And I think a coaching change is the only way to see if that is true. Max saying that call on Demko single-handedly ends Green's tenure as head coach. I think failure to execute on the penalty kill is what single-handedly ends Green's tenure as head coach. If the Canucks can do something on the penalty kill and not allow 2 goals a game against, then they're not losing all of these games. And maybe Travis Green, has a job continuing forward. I just don't know if they are going to make these changes. Kai Howard saying, is it fair to question if Travis Green is too hands-on the power play and penalty kill? First, we all thought Newell Brown was the problem. Since he left and joined the Ducks, they have a top 5 power play. Yeah. It might be a fair question, right? It seems that every single person that leaves this organization excels. Like I said, we had it with Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt is doing excellent in Winnipeg so far by every single metric. Newell Brown leaves and the power play in Anaheim excels, and the power play here is one of the worst in the NHL. So something's wrong with the organization as a whole. Something's wrong, whether it's management or coaching. Again, I don't have all the answers, but something is wrong here. People leave and they do better. That's a bad sign. So yeah, I think Travis Green, again, has a part of that. I think that's a fair point from Kai there. Whew. Let's find some good questions here. We're already 27 minutes in. I usually like to keep these 35 minutes. This will probably be a longer one because I didn't do one the other night when I was pretty heated about that loss 7-1 to Colorado. But yeah. I'm just gonna scroll quite a bit here. BR saying Demko probably still gets play of the week with some saves tonight. Yeah, I think Demko wasn't great, but I think he still did his best. And again, Demko's played all but 3 games this season, right? He's going to get tired pretty soon. Agam saying, I think the reason everyone's pissed is because they don't look like they're trying. Yeah, I agree. It looks like they're giving up too easy. It looks like things are falling apart and they let them fall apart. Nick saying, I can't handle this. I'm sorry. How can we be positive right now? Yeah, I agree. The team has been way worse than we expected. 3 years ago before, the condensed season before that, right? We're talking when they were a middling, like 25th place team that didn't have much of an outlook. That was easy to sort of take those moral victories and be like, oh, well, at least they did this and this, right? No, this is a time where we need results. We need this team to start succeeding. We need them to start winning hockey games, and they're not doing it. They've won 3 games in regulation this season. They've played 15 games, and they have won 3 of them in regulation. That's not good enough. That's what, 20%? That's not good enough. You can't just win 3 out of every 15 games in regulation. At the end of the season, what, 20%? You're talking what, like 15, 20 games that you win in regulation over the entire season? That's not a playoff team. It's just not. Jenner saying, I don't think that firing Green and Benning would solve the Canucks problem. I think firing Benning would solve one of the overarching problems. Would it solve it for this season? I don't know. But they can't do nothing, right? They can't just wallow away and be like, oh, well, another season that this one's a write-off. I guess they're not good. I guess the team just isn't good enough. Whatever. Injuries are a problem. Oh, we didn't have Mott. We didn't have Sutter. You have to do something, right? You have to do something if you want to have any shot of salvaging this season. You're 3 games below 500 with 67 games to play. That's enough time to come back. But if you are going to come back from it, it has to be right now. Because if you get 4 games below 500, 5 games below 500 with 60 games to go, suddenly you need to put on like a 110-point pace to make the playoffs, and that's not going to happen. So if there's going to be change, it has to happen now. Zach saying Canucks ticket prices are going to go for $19.99. Who's going to pay top dollar to watch this team right now? Yeah, 100% true. I went to the game against the Rangers last week, which was a fun game. It was an excellent game. I was sitting in row 2, and it was $70 a ticket on the secondary market. And I bet going into these next few games, you're going to go against, who do they play? They play against Vegas or Colorado next week or whatever. You're probably going to be able to find those games on the secondary market. You can probably get in the door for $20. And that's with the team getting none of it because you're buying it on the secondary market because their tickets are still $70 to be in the upper bowl. So yeah. Let's find some more. Kai saying, I know Demko hasn't been great this road trip, but we shouldn't be relying on our goalie to bail us out every night. I agree. Look, this is one of the ones where the Canucks put up enough goals to make a difference. But remember, it was Halak in net when it wasn't. It was Demko in net when they lost 7-1 too. Yeah, Demko hasn't been perfect, but again, he hasn't had any support in front of him. So we can't be, throwing all of this on Thatcher Demko. Agam saying you can be bad and fun. We're bad and we look like we don't care. Yeah. It's a different story if the Canucks are losing every game 6-5 or whatever. Like this game was 7-4 and it was fun until the last 13 minutes or so. But it also wasn't fun in the way that it was like, man, we know this team isn't winning this game, right? Like when it was 3-2 in the second period, I would have put any amount of money on Vegas winning that game. And maybe I should have. But yeah, we knew it wasn't going the Canucks way tonight because they just don't have, they just don't have it. I can't tell you what it is, but the Canucks don't have it. Agam also saying on the Demko penalty that play was miles offside, so the play shouldn't have happened at all. That was an interesting one because I think it was Riley Smith who took it in offside. The whistle should have gone then. It didn't. And then he pulled it back out and then they went back in, which means that if they had scored there, it would have counted because the puck left the zone and entered the zone again. So it was kind of weird. It should have been blown dead, but it wasn't. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to scroll a bit here. Agam saying playoffs are overrated anyways. I'd much rather watch us lose the draft lottery. Yeah. Alter H saying Green has to be gone when they get home from this road trip, right? He doesn't have to be. I think he should be. I think he should be gone today. Although, it's back-to-backs. Maybe they'll give him tomorrow, whatever. But I think something has to give here. Earl saying maybe move Pettersson to the third line until he gets better and have Höglander on the first line. I think Pettersson was on the third line tonight. He was playing with Dickinson. But again, I wasn't focused much on the lines because I was so frustrated. I think they're not going to give Pettersson as much ice time. How much time did Pettersson have tonight? I don't have the game tracker open. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick with my quick clicking. Vancouver, Vegas, team stats. Give me the team stats. Elias Pettersson played 16:57 tonight, which was fourth most out of all forwards. Besser played more, Miller played more, and Horvat played more. Pettersson was a -3 tonight. This is not good enough. Blitz saying that Blitz thought he was being harsh by saying the Canucks were going to hover around 500 and miss the playoffs. Yeah, that wasn't a very hot take, apparently, was it? Monotone Cube saying there's no way this team is making the playoffs. Benning says multiple times before the season that making the playoffs is a must. Looks like firing Benning is going to be a must soon. Yeah. And in any job, right? Look, NHL general managers, NHL coaches, they all have limited shelf lives, right? Most only have a job for, 3 to 9 years, right? Before they get fired. However, if you are in any job and you go in and you fail and you fail and you fail over and over again for 8 years in the case of Jim Benning and 5 years in the case of Travis Green, you lose your job. If you then go and promise your boss and you promise all the people who, I guess, give money to this company, it's hard, it's kind of hard as an example, but I'm talking about the fan base, right? If they go out and they promise the fan base, and they say, hey, this is the year we're making the playoffs. We need to make the playoffs this year. And you go out and you fail again, or you show every sign that you are about to fail again, you lose your job. So in my opinion, it's pretty clear cut. Oh, Agam saying, if you fire Green, who do you even bring in? Anybody for this season. I think you go interim for this season, whether it's someone like Bradshaw or Jason King or one of the Sedins as an interim head coach. I don't know. You bring in someone in the interim just as a body. Because again, we saw it with Craig Berube, just came in as, sort of a guy off the shelf, and it made a big difference. You need to bring in somebody. However, again, I don't think you let Jim Benning give someone a 3-year contract, because then we're going to be stuck with potentially a coach that doesn't live up to our expectations. But I think you bring in someone on an interim tag, at least for the time being. JJ saying, Aquaman going to drop the axe. I think it's time for a new fire Green or not poll. So if you guys are new here, we have 185 people in here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. We've done polls a couple of times this year on whether or not you think Travis Green should be fired. We had one that was in the 70% saying that Green should be fired, and the Canucks won a couple of games, and it was 55% saying to keep Green. So why not? I know what it's going to be. I'm going to ask fire Green. Yes or no? This is your chance. The 185, 192 of you people in this chat tonight, who are all probably as frustrated as me. This is your opportunity. Answer the poll. Yes, that Green should be fired. No, that Green should not be fired. And leave a comment, I guess, on whether you think Benning should go as well. But I think I know which direction this poll is going to go, and his early results start to come in heavily leaning one way. And I'll let you guys assume which way that is. 70 votes already. Let's get more in. I'll read the next question. Agam saying coaching change worked in Calgary, which I think I mentioned earlier. Absolutely. Alex saying that Benning and Green both need to go. Darren saying Green has to go. Ritlock saying we're underperforming as a team. However, I feel like our top players are playing terrible as well. And yes, I agree. However, is that more on the players or more on the coaching? I think you need coaching to bring that level up out of your players. We have 109 votes on this poll so far. 90% are saying it's time to fire Travis Green. 90%. 113 votes now, still at 90%. I'm screenshotting this. I'm posting this on Twitter. I'm posting this straight up. Presented without context. Hashtag Canucks. Boom. 113 votes, 90 to 10. It's 116 now at 91 to 9. We'll end it there. Yeah. So the Canucks fan base, especially people in my chat, say that it's time. Jeremy Lee's saying, could Gallant be a good option? Potentially. Is he still a free agent? Did he not get hired somewhere? I guess, yeah, no, he works for the Rangers. We talked about this previously. Gallant is the Rangers head coach right now. So no, he couldn't be a good coach for the Canucks. Yeah, I'm not for Mike Babcock coming on as well. I'll just say that off the rip there. Tony's saying Green is a bad coach, a good guy that the players like, but a bad coach. And not just the players like. I like Travis Green a lot. As a person, I think Travis Green is great. I just think something has to get changed. Some support for Gronborg, who I think is in Sweden. Some JT Miller talk. We're only halfway through all the comments, so I am going to try to get to as many of these as possible. This might be this is going to be our longest post-game show, I think. Calvin saying, how many good players are we going to ship away until we realize it's the coach? Hopefully not many more. Again, we saw it with Schmidt. He wanted to leave because he wasn't being used to his standards, and he has been excellent in Winnipeg so far. Sam Wu saying, while scoring first was a good sign, it was quickly erased by how quickly we collapsed in the third. And it was quickly erased in the second, right? The Canucks score first. They score twice in the first 6 minutes. Then they're down 3-2 halfway through the game. They allow 3 goals in basically 11 minutes. Monotone Cube saying, I know being a ref is a hard job, but the league deserves better officiating. It's embarrassing. 100% agree. Yeah, it was bad tonight, and it's been bad recently. And again, not in a biased way. I saw someone respond to me on Twitter saying, I'll see if I can find the quote, the refs are against the Canucks. And I responded, no, they're not rooting against one team. They're just incompetent, because that's just the truth. Calvin with some examples. Stetcher. I don't think Stetcher's been better in Detroit. He hasn't been playing every game. He's been scratched quite a bit. Tanev. Yeah, Tanev's been one of the best defensemen in the NHL lately. Markstrom had, 4 shutouts so far this year. I'm not putting too much on that on coaching, because Markstrom was excellent here, and coaching doesn't have much to do with goaltending, although defense does. And yeah, Schmidt, of course, as an option. Oh, Blitz saying, this reminds me of Tortorella playing forcing the Twins to play more shutdown roles. Yeah, I think it's a defensive focused system that's collapsing defensively. Let's see here. Lincoln saying, I agree with you, Parker, that I think the only thing we can do is fire the coaches and GM. Tanev and Schmidt are both better with their new teams. It's 100% the coach's fault with our L-type D. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. But yeah, I think, you have to make some sort of change. I think making a trade, like bringing in a new player, isn't going to do it, right? Let's say they go out and trade a player for a defenseman. What difference is that going to make at this point, right? It might marginally improve the roster, but the team is already capped out. I don't think a marginal roster improvement is what's going to save this team. Alter saying, if the Canucks were to actually fire Green and Benning, how long do you think it'll take things to get better? I don't know. I don't know if they will get better. Again, I'm not on the side of, I know exactly, I don't know how much a coach impacts the game. It's really hard to quantify as sort of a math guy, but I'm of the mind that something has to change. And if it is enough to make a difference, then hopefully it makes a difference quick enough to save the season. If not, then it's another lost year of our lives rooting for this team. It's Mr. Andy saying, starting to feel apathy for this Canucks team, but a loyal fan ever since I was born, but these are just terrible to watch. Yeah, this is how I felt during sort of the Willie D era, where I had watched the Canucks every single game of my life, and then I went off to college, and Willie D was in charge, and I stopped caring because the team was boring, the team was bad, and that's basically it. And it's, apathy is going to set in. Apathy set in last year as well when the Canucks fell out really, pretty dramatically in the shortened season, in that 56-game season. And it's going to happen again. And apathy is the worst possible thing for a franchise. That's when you start to get into something like Arizona Coyotes territory. Calvin then saying, I'm tired of watching us lose every game. I might just take a break for a while. Yeah. And again, that's going to happen. People are going to put themselves first. Say, you know what? Watching this team isn't good for my mental health. I'm going to take a break. And if I wasn't doing these videos, these post-game videos, and which I really enjoy doing, and they're sort of the bright spot of these bad games, then I would be in the same boat. I don't know if I would be watching this team, go out tomorrow night on a Sunday, because I might be disappointed by the Seahawks already tomorrow. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone for not watching the next couple of games until something gets better. I'm going to just scroll and pick a couple here because we do want to pick a couple here. Troy saying, I can't believe this team has let in 14 goals in the last 2 games with Demko in goal. Yeah. Remember, Thatcher Demko is a good goalie, right? Thatcher Demko is a good goalie, allowing 7 goals in each of the last 2 games. With a probably top 10, top 15 NHL goalie in net, that's a bad sign. Let's find some good ones here. Darren saying that Green's obsession with checking lines is his downfall. If he was any good at matching lines, he would do well in home games. He's got to go. Yeah, we don't see a big increase in record from away compared to home, which I think in the NHL it's usually a 3 to 5% win rate difference, which isn't big. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Quaxy's thing, I don't think it's Benning's fault. He had the most with cap space he had in free agency. I think it's Green's fault. I think this season is Green's fault. Yeah. However, I don't think that that it's not Benning's fault for the previous 8 years, right? The team's still been bad for 8 years, even though, it's Travis Green right now, who's probably the culprit, or at least something that has to change. JJ saying, just when we thought not scoring the first goal was one of the main problems, they score 2 first and still lose. Yeah, well, the penalty kill still allowed 2 goals. So that is a big one here. Jeremy saying the writing's on the wall. The owners made the road trip. Defensive breakdown, shots against, along with a bad power play and penalty kill. Green's gone. Yeah, that was one of the most damning things that we saw. And again, they made an excuse for it, saying, oh, this was a planned thing that Francesco was going to make the trip with the team to Vegas and whatever. But it's so rare, and the fact that it was brought up before the game, like, hey, the ownership group is here to watch this game in person. Maybe Jim Benning or Travis Green doesn't make the flight home. Who knows? Who knows? Patrick Bell saying that look what Calgary did. They brought in a defensive-minded coach, made a huge difference. Yeah, I don't know if I want a defensive-minded coach. And again, I sort of always go back to Barry Trotz as the example in for the Islanders in New York, who have been very successful with him at the helm. But they also play very boring hockey. But I'd rather lose than be fun, I think. Or that's not what I meant. I'd rather win low-scoring, boring games than lose a bunch of fun games and never make the playoffs, because the playoffs are the most fun. JJ saying something needs to be done ASAP. Important to remember, it's a business. Throwing the towel and doing nothing for the rest of the season means losing a lot of ticket sales this season. Yeah, I did the math about a week ago, just looking at how much revenue a playoff game makes, right? So if the Canucks make the playoffs, you're guaranteed 2 home playoff games, maybe 3 if you make it to game 6, if you're the worst seeded team, right? Well, if you're selling 19,000 tickets at an average price of probably $150, you're looking at over $3 million in revenue, right? Add in concessions, add in, XYZ, parking, right? All these extra little things that add up, and sure, you have to take away staff and whatnot. But let's say everyone in the arena spends $16 on a beer, right? That's another, I don't know, a couple $100,000 in revenue. A coach's salary or a GM's salary gets whittled away pretty quick when you look at it in that realm. So yeah, I think money is a bad excuse if you're going to go that way. By the way, Kurt, thank you for the backstage membership. Socks. I miss you, buddy. Appreciate you. Let's see here. The Elder saying Canucks have sad with all the rain in the city, maybe seasonal affective disorder. City seems cursed. Arizona will have a cup before Van. That's a hot take, saying that Arizona's going to have a cup, because I don't know if Arizona's going to have a team before Vancouver wins a Stanley Cup, which might be never. Irwin saying, although the game was winnable up to the Demko goal, the easy crumble when things don't go their way after losing a 2-0 lead and tying up 4-4 is a surefire sign of fragility. Yeah. Again, last season, and especially the season before, we saw a lot of battle back in this team, right? We saw them go down a goal and they worked and came back. And we kind of saw that tonight with the Höglander goal to answer and tie the game, and then the Höglander second goal to come back and tie the game, but they fell apart really, really quickly after that. All right, there's a lot more, but I think I'm just going to pick a very, very few more questions, because we do want to wrap up here, almost 50 minutes into this one. Also, Shannon, thank you for the backstage membership as well. Terry saying, where were you last night? I think he's referring to the Colorado game. I had a hockey game, so I wouldn't have been able to do my stream until 11 o'clock, which would have been 2.5 hours after the game ended. And I didn't want to, because they played terribly and they lost 7-1. And I thought I'd save my frustration for this one. All right. We'll take a couple more. So how you doing? Canucks cannot take advantage of opposing teams with other top players in the lineup. I think everyone saw this before the regular season began, and it's the exact same we saw in the preseason versus the Oilers. Yeah, again, I'm not going to take preseason too much into account, but yeah, I mean, they went up against Colorado, who was missing Nate McKinnon. They lost Bowen Byram halfway through that game, and they still got shelled. They go up here. It's Mark Stone's first game back. They just traded away Alex Tuck. Jack Eichel obviously just had surgery, I think, earlier today or yesterday, so he's not in the lineup. And again, they get the doors blown off of him and allow 7 goals once again. Patrick saying that, giving us a bit of a positive, saying Hughes is minus 14 at this time last year. He's a plus 6 this season. Yeah, and I think he has 11 assists, Hughes, already. So good on him for at least putting up some points. All right. There's so many more, but again, when there's 200 people in here, guys, I can't take them all, and we're 50 minutes in, so we're gonna wrap up there. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me tonight. I have the credits. I'm not going to show them because they're wrong, but shout out Adam. I'll pull up my memberships on the side here just to make sure I have everything right here. Let's take a look. Level. Shannon, Kurt, Lucas, Adam, thank you guys for being backstage members. If you want to become a VIP or backstage member, you can check out that join button down below. If you want more of these post-game shows after every Canucks game, hit the subscribe button so you can come join us for those. You'll get notified. Hit the bell to be notified when these go live. Hit the like button. Do all that good stuff. You guys know the drill at this point. Yeah, hopefully tomorrow night we have something a little more positive to talk about. Whether that is a win, whether that is a change in regime or a change in coaching, all that good stuff. So hopefully we have something going tomorrow. All right. I will, with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow.